This is The Great Outdoors with Jason White, exploring the great outdoors in Pennsylvania and beyond. Brought to you by the Mariana Outdoorsmen Association and by Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. Now, The Great Outdoors with Jason White.
Good morning to our listening audience. If you don't recognize Jason's voice, it's because he's not here. He has a prior commitment on his farm. My name is Darrell Becker. I am the president of the Fayette County Farm Bureau, and it's my privilege and honor to be here to fill in for Jason. I think we're going to have a good show today. We have a special guest who is from the Soil Conservation District. His name is Pierce Wilson. Greetings, Pierce.
Thanks, Darrell.
And Pierce will give you a little bio of himself, and then we're going to move into some programs that we can help some young farmers.
Okay. Thanks, Darrell. Just a couple things here. I'm Pierce Wilson. I'm with the Fayette County Conservation District. I've been there 12 years now. My job as the agricultural coordinator is to work with farmers here in the county to help them be in compliance with agricultural laws, work with them on funding, and offer services that we have at the office back to local farmers here. A little bit about me. My background is agriculture. I come from a third-generation family farm in Jefferson Township. We raise a herd of commercial beef cattle, and we do a commercial fall market with pumpkins and corn stalks and things like that. It is with myself, my wife, and my mother. We operate the farm, and it's definitely interesting to be in that business. It's when you get to work a job in ag, and then you get to go home and live it too. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy putting conservation practices on our farm and seeing the benefits of it. One other little thing too, involvement in the community here. I'm also more recently here, as of November of 2023, I'm now the president of the Fayette County Fair.
And that was good news. So, Pierce, you want to tell us a little bit about Nickman Plaza, the programs you have, and Soil Conservation District in general?
Yes, absolutely. Our Conservation District's located at 10 Nickman Plaza on Connellsville Street. Within our office plaza, we have multiple agencies. There's the Conservation District, which is the county level. We have the Natural Resources Conservation Service, which is NRCS. They are part of a division of the Department of Agriculture. They are there to also assist farmers and landowners for conservation practices. We have the Farm Service Agency, which is also a division of the Department of Agriculture. We also have the Bureau of Forestry, too. So we have a forester in the office, we have a commodity reporter, and we have soil conservationists with the NRCS office to aid and assist anybody here in the county.
Well, that's great. You also have equipment that you use to help farmers in complying with some of these things.
We do. Actually, we have a very kind of unique program here to counties in the Southwest. Some counties local to us do have some rental programs, but our rental program started, I'd say, 17 or 18 years ago now with one no-till drill that was purchased on a grant with my predecessor that was there, Chris Rierko. He had worked with a grant in the Conservation District to get our first 7-foot Great Plains no-till drill. From there, over the years, the amount of work that the no-till drill did, it was able to serve farmers in the county, and we were able to build a program off of it. Today, we actually have 2 7-foot no-till drills. We actually purchased our new one last week. We picked it up in Lancaster County and brought it here, and it's out serving the farmers. We bought a really nice piece of equipment. It's an Ash, more later up-to-date technology than some of the other ones we've had. We have a lime spreader we offer that people can rent the lime spreader. We do have a 2-row corn planter that's available to rent. In a few other smaller items, we have a small ATV sprayer and a couple other little things. So, and it's relatively inexpensive. I mean, our no-till drill program is $10 an acre. To own a piece of equipment that costs $25,000 or $35,000 for a small farm, I think it's really nice that we have something that we can rent it to a farmer. If you want to do, 5 to 10 acres a year, you're going to have a $50 to $100 bill on that versus the cost of ownership. We do strive really hard to make the equipment available to everybody. This time of year, it gets a little tricky with scheduling. So if you do call to rent something, be patient. We try to work with everybody and move it between farmers. But I have seen great success with the program over the years of how it's built. And I think we're going to just continuously, year after year, look at what latent great technologies or implements so we can offer the county. That's my goal.
This is a great service to the local farmers because, like you said, who can afford to go out? I mean, if you're small, you can't afford to go out and buy the equipment to do this, and all they have to do is call you, and they can set up a time and a place to, do you deliver? Do they have to pick it up? How does this work with the rental of the equipment?
We can do it either way. We don't generally offer delivery unless there's, for some unforsaken reason, that you would need something like that. We do move it between farmers, and most of this stuff can be pulled behind a pickup truck home. Very simple process. We need a copy of a driver's license and a lease agreement filled out and proof of insurance. But yeah, it is available for the parameters of the farmers in Fayette County. And like I said, we've had really, really good success with it. One of the things that I feel that it's been very successful is we have been able to convince farmers or have farmers try doing no-till practices with the no-till drills and have went forward and actually purchased their own once they've gotten to a certain size where they see that they realize that this is a good transition to going from conventional ag to more of a conservation practice, that they have been able to purchase through the state. There's a program called REAP, and it is a tax credit program is available through the state if purchasing of conservation equipment where you can get tax credits back. And we've had multiple farmers in the county buy no-till corn planters and no-till grain drills with that. So I think that it's been really nice that we offer this service to show you that it's there, but our success in getting lots of conservation on the ground where we went from doing hundreds of acres to thousands of acres is because we have that available to test and try.
I think also it's a great way to introduce people to the best management practices that are going to put forth in many of the grants and cost share things that are available to them. This kind of introduces them to that.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one thing, too. I mean, we want to also not just rent the equipment, but establish some education behind it of why we're liming the fields to get the pH up, why we're planting cover crop seeds in the fall or summer covers. The soil's meant to be covered. We want to go a little deeper into the science of it. I mean, obviously, I'm not an agronomist. We do have an agronomist in the area, Justin Brackenridge.
He was here last week on the show.
Yeah, Justin and I converse frequently. He's a great resource on it. So like I said, I'm not really an agronomist. I'm more of a technician for this at this point, but getting this stuff out there and putting some education behind it. So we want to see farmers when they spend the money, if they come in the door and say, hey, I have this field and I think the conditions are really poor.
Be successful.
We want to look at a soil test. We want to look at what your goals are. How can we get there? Will these tools work? Just simply going out and buying seed and putting it in the ground is not always necessarily the answer. You have to have the support behind it. I think a soil test, we're going to go back to the basics. Yep. A very basic soil sample on it, see what your pH levels are. You look at your phosphorus levels, potassium levels. You can make a decision then what types of seed you plant. We want to see success with it.
And we don't waste money buying something that we don't really need to put into our soil. And there's a lot of different protocols that you can use, like put manure on a field. I'm understanding that if you put a lot of manure on, that adds a lot of stuff. But then you could add urea to that, which is something that would enhance what you've done with the manure.
Right, exactly. And just for an example, like 2 nights ago, I buggied some fertilizer on at home, and we purchased it in bulk, and we were at 1919 was like $625 a ton, which is a good price compared to what it's been the last couple of years. But I also wanted to make sure I was putting that on fields where my pH was right, because if the pH is too low, the availability of those nutrients greatly reduces. So this is where best management comes in, looking at the soil test, planning forward to what you're doing, because you can throw good money after bad in farming very quickly.
Well, I'll make you laugh. I mean, we spread some triple 19 too, and where Matt spread it, I mean, he was trying to be frugal with the way he was spreading it. And if you look at the field, you can actually see the lines where it's greener in the areas that it was more intense fertilizer, and it's just like stripes down a field. So it works. I mean, these things really work.
Absolutely. And I think when you look at the overall cost of production of everything, you want to get the most out of each acre you're farming.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's not always necessarily from a yield standpoint. It's from a cost of production standpoint. I think that's one thing. We always talk about yield, like we want the most amount of hay or the most amount of corn or the most amount of soybeans. But at the end of the day is you got to evaluate your cost of production. And this is where like our end of the conservation district comes in, and we start looking at things like you look at your soil fertility, you want to look at erodibility, we're looking at soil loss. Like we want to establish good conservation practices because topsoil, once it's made, it can erode very quickly and is a very, very long time to bring it back. Just to put it in perspective, a ton of topsoil over an acre is the thickness of a sheet of paper.
Yep.
So it's very easy to lose a ton or two a year very quickly on poor management practices, and it takes decades and decades and decades.
Hard to build soil.
To reestablish it. And then another factor is, too, you want to look at an organic matter content. One thing is aside from a basic soil test, we can do organic matter sampling. And this is all through, and this isn't the only place to do it, but Penn State University Park does soil testing, their Ag Analytical Science Lab. You can obtain the soil test kits at the Extension office on 34 Peter Street and send your samples into the state college. They will evaluate them, but you can have an organic matter test done, and we can look at the percentage of organic matter because soil is a living thing. You want to have the right amount of microbes and the right amount of good organic matter in the soil to have the activity of fertility and production that you're looking for.
Let's back up for 1 second. And so if someone is interested in renting this equipment, what is the phone number that they need to call in order to facilitate the rent?
You would call the Conservation District at my office, and that is 724-438-4497.
Well, this is great, Pierce. I know there's a lot of programs that the county and the federal agencies, do you want to get into some of the things that people can look at and the resources that you have available to them?
Absolutely. And I think there's two that we should touch on. Two of the things that we have, I'll start on the federal side of things with the NRCS. There is a program, and it's been available, I think, the last 3 farm bills, and I could be wrong on that. But it's called the Environmental Quality Incentive Payments, or EQIP, EQIP is what we refer to it. In our offices, we refer to a lot of acronyms. So you'll hear throughout the talk today, we're going to talk about a lot of acronyms, and it'll make your head hurt a little bit.
You will be extremely helpful in this because there are many educated people who know a lot about agriculture that get totally befuddled about REAP and ACAP and CREP and everything. So you'll be a great resource today, Pierce. Thank you.
Right. So the EQIP program is basically money from the U.S. Farm Bill to aid farmers in conservation practices. So if we're going to use a livestock example. So a farmer comes in, they own livestock, they have some cattle, they have some sheep. Somebody like Daryl. We're going to use Daryl, for example. Years ago, maybe about 10 years ago, you come to see us, said, hey, I know I have some resource concerns. And when I say a resource concern, that would be fields that are probably not in top condition, livestock near the stream, just a copulation of things that go together that we know there's a problem, we need to address it. So EQIP, we went out, we wrote a grazing plan. We worked with J.B. Harold with the NRCS office. He's out of the technical office in Somerset. He is our grazing specialist for our end of the state. He writes actually a prescription plan of how we lay the fields out. We design for rotational grazing, how we're going to fence the streams off, how we're going to get the livestock water, and he puts it together in a plan with a cost estimate. And at this point, then, you can do an application with the NRCS office to get funding to get a cost share for it. So it is an incentive payment. They don't necessarily pay for 100% of it, but they will offset the cost greatly to implement these practices.
What enables a farmer to do something that he never would be able to take on as a task by himself, but knowing that it's a cost share and some of it's 50% or higher. So, you get a lot of bang for your buck. And in my case, we put fencing up. They didn't pay for the outside fencing, but we got a cost share on fencing, internal fencing to make these paddocks, which is rotational grazing. And you can talk about that later if you want to. But, and the water is facilitate being able to move the cattle around, don't have to worm them as much. It's just very beneficial. And it teaches you how to get the best use of your land so that you're not wasting your time, your energy, and it's the quality of the animals that you're raising as well.
Right, and that's one thing here, and I always like to circle back to rotational grazing because our county here is a very heavy influence of livestock and especially cattle on pasture. You are now at this point when you do rotational grazing, you are not growing 200 bushel corn or 70 bushel soybeans. You're trying to grow so many tons per acre of grass and letting the cattle harvest that grass through a grazing season. So we're looking at a balance of how many cattle we can put on per acre, what kind of weaning weights we can get off of our calves. If you're in a stalker cattle operation where you're buying, 6 to 8 month old feeder cattle and you're trying to get the most gain to send them off to a producer, to a feedlot, how can we get this done? We're looking at it from a whole approach because we want money being earned on the farm when we're asleep. And that's the goal with the rotational grazing is it lowers the amount of equipment management and increases the chances of profitability with reducing overhead.
And when you rotate them, they don't graze the material down to the point where they're the lower to the ground, the closer it getting worms, the more you have to worm them. So you're basically preventing some of that, and it's just a best management practice.
Right, and there's been rotational grazing come out of New Zealand, and it really started to take storm here in the middle 80s. And actually, in Western Pennsylvania, we were one of the first ones. Kiwi Fence was over in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. They were one of the first fence suppliers for all this, late up-to-date technology from New Zealand, like these really hot fence chargers and high tensile fence and post drivers that we could, going from your traditional barbed wire and fencing big areas or woven wire and grazing paddocks down, that they said, hey, wait a minute, if you lay X amount of fields out and you put so many cattle in them and you move them every couple of days, you're really getting a good rate of return. You're not depleting what's in the ground. You're recycling the nutrients are there, and you're getting less weeds in your pasture. The pastures look lush. The cattle look great. The sheep
good for
look
the
great.
cattle. It's good for the land. It's good for everything. It's just a great way to go. And honestly, this technology is what has enabled us, with the loss of all the farmland that we've had over the last how many years. We'll talk about that later. This technology has enabled us to get more yield per acre and offset the loss of farmland.
Right, and one of our goals is with it, and you won't ever do it right. As soon as you establish a grazing system, if you've either started from scratch and you don't have any livestock, or you go from a conventional setting where you just had maybe like 2 big pastures on your farm and X amount of livestock, our goal is in a 5 to 10 year period where we want to be able to increase your stocking density because you're getting enough production by rebuilding the soil, rebuilding your qualities, getting good roots to your cool season and warm season grasses, that you can actually stock more livestock per acre at some point and intensify that situation. It's not recommended to do that, from the start, but it's something that you can build on, and then overall you can make more use of the ground you have fenced at that point.
I always make the point that everybody knows the picture of the guy who has his arm on his wife and a pitchfork in his hand, and that's the look of what a farmer is, and I always laugh because I have a picture of a woman from Adams County who has a lab coat on and a microscope, and she's in her field and she's talking about microbiology, and her point is when you step out on your field, you're on the roof of another world, and you need to know that. So
and there's one thing too, and like I said, I really enjoy rotational grazing. We utilize rotational grazing on our farm. We do somewhere between a 4 to 7 day rotation with our paddocks. We actually just put our cattle out off of our what we call a sacrifice lot, where we pick one place in the winter that we know is going to get tore up with the mud and the snow and the ice, where we have to feed hay. And we're in this area here with a pretty good rotation. You're looking at 120 to 150 days of the year you do have to feed hay, but we're looking at, and especially me, I'm looking at where I can start grazing maybe earlier in the year or picking up some time
later
at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And we're getting there slowly and surely. Every year that we've implemented a grazing system, I'm picking up a few days on the beginning and I'm picking up a few days on the end, and we're going in the right direction with it. But that's the thing about it is when you get deeply involved in it, the rotational grazing is not just a science; it's also an art too. There's a scientific aspect of it, but there's also the artisan aspect of it, of going out there and looking and determining this is a time to move them to the next paddock, or what's the body condition of the cattle? What am I looking for? Genetically, how are we breeding these cattle to survive? And to work in this system, and it's really really neat. And not only do we have the resources through our office. The local conservation districts in Southwest PA, there's a focus group that's involved called Southwest Project Grass, which I'm on the committee there also, and we do field days.
Grazing seminars and field days, and they are great to go to.
Yes, we have one coming up May 13th. It's in Cambria County. It is at Alex Masters, and he's a grazing person right now, a fence builder and a grazer. But we do move the programs around from, we've had some here in Fayette County, some in Washington, some in Greene, to showcase what farmers have done with this. In Southwest Project Grass, and actually Southwest Project Grass was a national initiative done in the 80s. We are still one of the oldest, if not the oldest, still meeting organization in the country, and we're actually going to celebrate our 45th anniversary here pretty soon. And October of 2025, we're going to have a 45th anniversary conference at the Fayette County Fairgrounds as the tentative plan. We're going to have a 2-day event where we're going to have speakers come in and a trade show. We're going to go out to a farm. We're in the early planning stage of it right now, but we have determined some things that we want to do. It's going to be relatively inexpensive for somebody to come to it. It will be a 2-day deal, but we're going to work on getting a lot of resources, and we want to kind of do it from lock, stock, and barrel to go from a livestock component of it to an equipment component of it to a design of how you want to lay your fence out, water systems, and how to get to funding.
Well, as you get closer to this, you need to use Jason's show here as a way to broadcast some of this information, because I'm sure a lot of people would be interested.
Absolutely.
Let's try to go back and talk more about EQIP and how you apply and all the things like in order to get started.
Okay, so it's very simple. If you contact our local NRCS office, which is in Nickman Plaza, you can come in and talk to them about applying for it. They'll do a site visit, talk to you about some programs that are available, and then you will do an application. And nothing happens overnight. You're not going to do an application and next week they're going to call you and say you're funded. I mean, it is a little bit of a turnaround on all of this. With any of the funding, there's some stages, some planning, some paperwork that has to be done. But at the end of the day, it's rather easy to do, and there's a lot of guidance on it to do it.
Very good. What was that phone number again for our listening audience?
For the Conservation District, it's 724-438-4497. For the NRCS office, it is 724-437-7971.
We will give these to you again at the end of the show. So more about EQIP and maybe getting into the ACAP program.
Okay, so ACAP is very similar to EQIP. ACAP is actually a state funding that we would handle through the Conservation District, also to implement best management practices. So it's a second pool of funding that we have to offer to do projects large and small. And there's a shorter time period. We were told the allocation is until July of 2026. So if somebody has a smaller best management practice they want to do on the farm, to please call us at the office, even to a larger project and anything in between. It's a new program. There's some, bodies involved with the state and with us, so we're all kind of on a learning curve with it, but we are working, we are going out, we are seeing farmers with it. Some of the things we've done to date, we've done some reimbursement for cover crops for the farmers, and we've just recently built some fence to add to some grazing systems that were there already, and we're trying to also balance this out if it's a larger project to work with NRCS and ACAP together, so we can actually, both sides of the office can work together on a project. If a farmer has EQIP funding, to come in also with ACAP funding and maybe pick up some of the difference that they would have out of pocket to help them with it. Because we want to have a good working relationship, and we're one of the few.
Well, you're a resource that people should use. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, and I go to different meetings, state meetings, and I've learned in the years that I've worked here, our area, and especially Fayette County, we have a great working relationship with the NRCS, FSA, and the Conservation District. I've gone to counties not very far from here and realized that there's not necessarily that good camaraderie among the agencies, and we work really good together here among the agencies to do the best we can for the farmer.
I think the Fayette County is one of the best kept secrets in Southwest PA, and we're blessed with legislators and the Chamber of Commerce and everything. Let me go back and give one plug for the Farm Bureau. Pierce is talking about all this funding. Well, what the Farm Bureau does, we advocate for farmers, and we are integrally involved in lobbying the legislature and the governor and everybody else. We are the only state in the entire country that has its own farm bill. So that's one source. And then you have the federal farm bill, which, by the way, is still not been signed, and they're still working on that. And it's not so much a bipartisan effort, and they're trying to push this through and get that done so the funding continues. But this is the job of the Farm Bureau. This is what we do.
Right. And that's another thing too, especially with our agencies. I know that there's the old cliche that floats around through the farm community when the county person pulls up to the farm and says, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help. We should run the other way." That's not what we're about.
That's archaic.
We're not out here to find people or to get people in trouble. We're here to put you into compliance, to work with you and get you funding so your operation is better for you and better for the environment. So you have to meet so many goals environmentally, and that's what our job is.
So the ACAP program, mirroring the EQIP program, is about waterers, fencing. What else? Because you have a specific program in Fayette County, FARM, at Lime. I mean, we're blessed here. So
that was actually a local design program. I worked on that with our conservation board and manager. We designed that 3 years ago now, the farm program. It's Fayette Agricultural Resource Management, since we always go back to acronyms. But one of our things was, at the time, we didn't have – the ACAP funding's come a little bit late to the game, but it's a great thing, and it's a larger pool of money to work with. Our idea with farm at the time was – and there's no negativity. A lot of times NRCS projects necessarily are a little bit of a larger thing that they go after. We had farmers coming in saying, "Hey, I have a spring development that worked for a long time and it needs some repair. Is there any cost share money for it?" And be like, "Well, no." Or we had somebody come in and said, "Hey, I need to, is there any money available? I need to get a couple loads of lime for the farm, and, things are tight. I'd like to work with you on this." And we, no. And we would have somebody come in and say, "Hey, I want to build this, put some gutter on a barn." Very simple. These are all good practices. They're coming in and say, "Hey, I want to do one or two things. Is there a little bit of money available?" And we kind of put our heads together and said, we need to have something local.
And you've expanded this program to include some of these things.
And we made a very streamlined process to fill out an application. And one of the big things that we've done with this is we cost share for lime. We have up to a $1,500 cost share with money available at the time. Funding is not always guaranteed to apply lime to your farm.
And that's still open. That program right now, they can apply now.
Yes.
When we need to do this.
Right. And, we've had really good success and response level to it. And it's getting to the point where other districts, and actually I give this information to the last spring to the Pennsylvania Association of Conservation Districts, PACD, who kind of is the parent over top of us in lobbying for conservation districts. I actually spoke at a webinar on it about how we've taken this program and made something where we could do small BMP, best management practices, on farms, and you get a good response level of farmers wanting to participate.
Well, obviously, when you get out and you speak and you talk and you expand, that's how things get done, and that's how Fayette County is moving forward. We do a lot of things where we're out there and people see us, people talk about us. I mean, we want to be the showcase of Southwest PA. So, besides EQIP and ACAP, how about an idea of somebody that's just starting out? The old joke is that the first thing a farmer needs to plant is fence posts. You want to talk a little bit about how someone who may have just purchased a farm, it's involved in clean and green, but the farm is like 1990s and we need to get into 2020.
Right. Good thing here, Daryl. Somebody recently purchases a piece of land, doesn't have a lot of knowledge of it. That's where we step in and to help. Come see us at the office, call us, set up a site visit. We'll get you on the schedule. We'll come out. We'll talk about your goals, what your opportunities are, what your goals are, what your plans are with it, where you want to be with it. We can look at what the ground you have, kind of come up with a plan and get you steps in the right direction and see what funding is suited for you at that point. Sometimes it's a matter of, you're right where you need to be and you only need a little bit more, or you've got a whole lot of stuff to do before you get to that point. But if you're not sure, utilize a resource.
Absolutely, and it's all there. Anything else you wanted to add? I mean, it basically goes back to soil test first, so you know what your ground's like, and then develop a plan. Why don't we talk about the conservation plans and manure management plans, because that's something that eventually, even if you want to get into like land preservation, you're going to have a conservation plan and a manure management plan. And they're not really, manure management's not that hard, but, explain a little bit about that.
Right. The manure management plan in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's a state law that anybody that owns any amount of livestock, regardless if you had one animal or 100, you have to have a manure management plan. And it's really not a bad thing. We have the plan books at the office. I can assist to do it. It's a self-developed plan by the farmer with a little bit of record keeping. It's not turned into anybody. It's not public record or anything like that. But it is the compliance in the law. That those manure management laws have been around since the 70s and been more recently enforced in the last 20 years with some issues with the Chesapeake Bay. So it's something rather easy to do. It's a book, a workbook with some charts and recordings. We talk about how many animal numbers there are, identify some resource concerns on your farm, and it starts to help you get a comprehensive plan of which direction of some things you might need to fix.
I think that's important. If we go back to the state of agriculture, if you're required as a farmer to do a census, and it's every 5 years. So you have the 2007, 2012, 2017, and just like the government, it's 2020, 22 just came out in 2024. It is amazing that every single year the number of farms that have gone away has increased, and the number of acres that is available to farm has decreased. And it's absolutely incredible. I just heard the other day from the American Farm Bureau that nationwide, since 2017, we have lost 20 million acres of farmland. Okay, so this is and so I'm big on land preservation, and one of the requirements for applying for farmland preservation is you need to have not only a manure management plan, but also a conservation plan. People should be looking at farm preservation. Pierce, what do you got to do with a conservation plan?
Okay, a conservation plan, that would be something that the NRCS office would be able to help you with. That a conservation plan is going to be the comprehensive plan of your farm to manage soil loss. So it will go through your cropping rotation, hay rotation, grazing rotation. It will determine the tolerable amount or T value of soil loss on your operation to keep you in compliance. And if you're a farmer that wants to apply for funding, you have to have a conservation plan and or an agricultural erosion and sediment plan, which is a self-developed plan also. But the conservation plan's a little more detailed, a little more comprehensive, but there are some resources on the computer to get some development of that.
Some of that can be cost shared in order to get started, but it's certainly
correct.
Something that every farmer should have, a conservation plan, and every farmer should have a manure management plan. It's critical.
Absolutely. And it opens a lot of doors, and it's definitely a formality and an importance to have it if you're applying for any type of state or federal funding.
Yep. I mean, we were just blessed last Friday. Russell Redding was here from the he's the Secretary of Ag in the state of Pennsylvania, and they're very familiar with Fayette County. He'll probably be back for the Fayette County Fair, and you'll be able to greet him.
I'm sure. Just shifting gears a little bit, two other things I wanted to talk to you about coming through the Conservation District office, ag and conservation related. One is we actually the Conservation District is part of the Southern Little Highlands Plant Management Partnership, SLUMP. As we always say, it's kind of a long acronym, but they're having the native plant sale at Sugarloaf on Sugarloaf Road up in Ohiopyle, and it's going to be May 11th from 9 to noon. And they're working with the Fayette CTI to grow a lot of these plants. So
you send me these flyers, and I'll get them out on the Fayette County Facebook page.
Yep, and a lot of native plants, a lot of options, really nice stuff. They have been working with Fayette CTI in their greenhouse to develop a lot of these. So these are Fayette County born and raised vegetation to plant. So if anybody has any questions, you can call the Conservation District or we'll have the flyers out for it. But like I said, it's May 11th from 9 a.m. to 12. Another thing is the Conservation District, we're hosting an event June 8th at the Fayette County Fairgrounds called Wild About Nature. So what it is, and this will be our third year of doing it, is a all-inclusive, free-to-the-public event for families to come out and learn about kids with their 4-H projects, with livestock, learn about conservation. We have beekeeping activities, equestrian activities, and anything in between. So pretty much anything that has to do with nature, whether it has to do with fish or cattle or conservation. We have a little of everything with some really neat shows planned. It's from 10 to 3 on June 8th. If anybody has any questions on it, like I said, it's free to the public to call and RSVP for it. You don't have to RSVP for it, but we would like some phone calls to get an idea of how many people come. Last year, we actually had a little over 1,000 people. So our event had grown by a couple hundred from the year before. We've had really nice turnouts for it. Come out, enjoy it. We'll have some food available. There will be some food trucks available for food to purchase. And it's kind of like a little bit of a preemptiveness to, it's kind of like the county fair, but not the county fair to start with. But really neat. You get to talk to kids about their 4-H projects and what they're doing, and really nice activity for the whole family.
You and I both know that as farmers, we're educators too, and we need to educate the general public about what farmers do. These are all great examples, and I think this is a great program, and we need to try to get out there and take advantage of this. You have anything else? I was going to run a few dates down from the Farm Bureau. On June the 9th, day after that, we will have our annual spring picnic at the Perryopolis Washington Park. All members and even non-members are welcome to come to that. On July 13th, we have a fundraiser. We're partnering with Jason White's MOA, and there's going to be a golf event at Cedar Brook, and details will be on the Fayette County Farm Bureau Facebook page. Please go and visit that. On September 9th, we have our 5th annual Farm to Table dinner where we try to get the general public to come out. All the items that are being cooked at that event are sourced by Fayette County Farm Bureau members.
Daryl, where's the Farm to Table event going to be this year?
It will be at the Grayson House. Details will be coming out. I highly recommend that you get into the habit of checking the Fayette County Farm Bureau Facebook page. All of our events and all the things that come down from legislatively at the state. I mean, it's just a great resource as well. And all you have to do is punch up Fayette County PA Farm Bureau. We meet at the fairgrounds. Pierce knows this. Every first Wednesday of the month, we have our regular Fayette County Farm Bureau meeting. And that'll be at 7 o'clock in the Fiddler's Building. Some of the things that are going on right now is there's a buy local ad booklet that is being put out by the Fayette County Farm Bureau in conjunction with the county commissioners and the county trying to go more towards a buy local environment. And if you're a Farm Bureau member, you get a free ad in that booklet. And you should be in there. You have something in there about your bulls. So it's always interesting. If you wait till July to join the Farm Bureau, you get the rest of the year and all of next year. So it's a little bonus and just a little plug that, I advocate that you join the Farm Bureau. But if you wait until July, you get the rest of this year free and you get all of next year. So something else to look forward to. Pierce, we got about 5 minutes left. Anything else we want to help farmers with?
Yeah, just a couple things, too. When you were bringing up about dates, I guess I'll go ahead and I'll give a little spill, too. Don't forget the Fayette County Fair is July 25th to August 3rd this year. It's always it always starts the last Thursday in the month of July. Obviously, the board here, board of directors, we've all been very busy here through the winter months. I don't think a lot of people realize that the being committed to the fair board is a year-round event.
Absolutely.
Lots of planning, lots of meetings, lots of committee meetings, but we do have a nice slate of stuff planned for the fair this year, and we're very busy with it. So, one thing about it is the Fayette County Fair is the largest showcase of agriculture in the county. And I will tell you, in my travels and times, of being across the state at different county fairs, or being out of state at fairs, or even at some other state fairs, we have one of the nicest selections of livestock in the
Absolutely.
country. And it's amazing because when we have judges come from Illinois or Iowa or whatever, and they'll walk into Fayette County and they'll say, this is one of the nicest renditions of market livestock we've seen. That's something to be said for the area.
Well, absolutely. It's just another shining point on Fayette County. The Fayette County Farm Bureau will have a booth at the Fayette County Fair, and it'll be in the poultry building. Come and visit us. There'll be a lot of items up there and information. Come and chat. We can also talk and share ideas with you.
Is the Farm Bureau doing is there a legislative tour this summer at all yet? Do you know?
We have a
about
legislative tour that's going to be at the United Dairy. That's going to be, I don't have my book here. I think it's on the Fayette Couny Farm Bureau Facebook page. But we will be visiting the United Dairy. Dairy farmers are always it's difficult to be a dairy farmer, and there's a lot of legislation pending, where they're trying to get whole milk back in schools. Someone somewhere somehow made this idea that whole milk is fattening and kids shouldn't be drinking whole milk. That's ludicrous. I mean, it is absolutely ludicrous.
Right. And I think that's true. That it's a shame because the dairy farmer is one of the hardest working farm enterprises. I mean, it is a nonstop thing. So our job is, we always want to promote. You want to promote, drink milk, eat cheese. It's like with, owning livestock, we want you to eat beef and wear leather and do all that good stuff too. And eat lamb and buy vegetables and do all that. And one thing about it is in Fayette County, we have such a multicultural ag enterprise in the area here that you can get a little of everything.
Yep. There's a farmers market that's down on the Sheepskin Trail in Uniontown. It's starting, I think, in June. Another one just started up in Brownsville. We will be educating the Fayette County Farm Bureau members that there's an avenue for them to market their products. And once again, we have our farm to table dinner that's going to be on the 19th of September. Come and sample some of the products from Fayette County. Fayette County Farm Bureau meetings every first Wednesday of the month, 7 o'clock at the fairgrounds. And thank you for that space, Pierce. We really appreciate it.
Not a problem.
And thank you for coming to the show today. And I am sure we're going to do a follow-up. And we're going to try to maybe do a show where we have call-ins, where people can call in and have questions, because I've been told that's available. So look forward to 10:15 to 11 o'clock every Wednesday. And have a great day on this wonderful spring day. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Daryl.
Hey.